Hey cats and kittens, it's Ed Running Shoe Bud here. You may remember me from videos such as Running Shoe Yay or Nay and the Nightmare Shoes of 2020. Today I'm here to give you my top tips to help you increase your enjoyment of running. Thanks for joining us here at Eddbud Running Shoe Reviews. It's always appreciated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications when we launch those new videos for you. And it really helps the channel out too if you give this video a thumbs up, like, and also share it with your running buddies. Mucho gracias. So I've got some of my top tips for you today to help you increase your enjoyment of running. Maybe you've started running recently, maybe you're getting back into it after a spell out. Perhaps you've been injured like me. Look, progress. I've taken the sling off a bit as well, just to let my arm sort of hang there. After a while, it starts to feel like my own arm again, rather than somebody else's that's been sort of grafted on in Monster Mash style. Either way, if you're a runner, then you're a friend of mine. Here are my top tips. Let's start first, of course, with shoes. Shoes. We all like running shoes, don't we all? So if you just started running, perhaps you're just using whatever shoes you had available. Could be some old trainers, maybe something you wore at the gym, then good on you. I think as you progress though, a good pair of running shoes will stand you in good stead to make some improvements, and it will just generally help you enjoy running more. Running shoes tend to be a little bit different, so you've got a little bit more cushion there, a little bit more emphasis on comfort and less on style quite often. I have a video coming up on that very soon, so keep your eyes peeled. They're just going to make the process of improving your running a lot more enjoyable, really. At present, there are many great running shoe deals out there that can be had online. You can pick up some fantastic shoes for super cheap prices these days. Look at some of the videos that I've made recently. I think over the last year I've done at least one a month of my bargain running shoes. Check those out. You're bound to find something that will fit the bill. I'll put a card somewhere up on the screen somewhere so you can access that easily, or there'll be a link in the description. I would suggest popping along to your local specialist running shoe store, helping those people out. It's been tough times for them over the course of the last sort of 18, 19 months, so do go and try and give them some trade if you can. They'll be able to help with fitting and give some fantastic advice. One of my favourites, in fact, would be over in Poole, or sort of Bournemouth area. It's up and running. Simon over there is a top geezer. Some parts of the UK, we haven't got that luxury of having one of those stores around that can actually check your running gait to try and see which shoe might actually benefit you the most. There's a lot of myths about running shoe sizing, you know, whether you should have like a thumb's width at the front of the shoe. Well, I think that's a good rule of thumb. Is that where that comes from? Quite possibly. But I think I'd take it with a pinch of salt. You know, err a bit of caution here, guys. Remember, we're not all the same. Some people have got very wide feet. Some people have got long, narrow feet. Some people have got completely different sized feet as well. I know the FOD runner and I, we've pretty much like close to a half size difference maybe in our 2 feet. Some have high arches, some low arches. I mean, this is an arbitrary check, putting your thumb at the end of your shoe to see if there's enough room. Your other toes may be grouped together more closely, and thus, you know, that won't work. I think depending what you're going to run eventually as well, if you're training for a marathon or something, or you're just doing a 5k here or there, you'll want to get a shoe that's going to fit what you actually intend to use it for. So try and get to a specialist store if possible. I think it could help. I did do a sizing guide video. I will put a link to that on screen right now and in the description. One thing's for sure, ill-fitting shoes are not going to benefit you or amplify your enjoyment. I would avoid somewhere like Sports Direct if possible. These places aren't all that helpful for picking up running equipment. They're more interested in lining Mike Ashley's pockets. My second tip would be not to compare yourself against others. Many beginner or novice runners may think that they just run really slowly. If they do, well, that's okay. Your slow isn't the same as somebody else's slow, so don't compare yourselves. And anybody that isn't going to give you positive vibes about your running isn't worth considering. It's not worth your time listening to people like that. I don't think I've ever run into anyone, no pun intended, that didn't supply some positive vibes to others. Take pride in your achievements and also enjoy others' achievements. Quite a lot of the time my local running club will stay behind till everybody's come in. that's the way it should be. I think comparing yourself to others is a bit of a waste of time. It just leads to nothing but anxiety, I suppose, and misdirection of your energies. I think working on getting out there and running consistently is one of the best things you can do. A good regular routine will benefit your health and fitness a huge amount. Don't, though, be afraid to experiment with perhaps different routes, different paces from time to time. Perhaps also look at varying up the times at which you go out running as well. You could find that there's a specific time that your body just really engages with the run. Some people prefer mornings, some desire the darkness of the eve. Others like to go out at midday. Not me. That's not my bag at all. This doesn't work. I've done races at midday and I just can't seem to get going. It's the thought of the pizza. That's what it is. Always the thought of the pizza and the beer. Next tip is to make sure you warm up and you cool down. Absolutely essential, guys. Don't just go out running and expect to be firing on all cylinders straight away. It simply isn't going to happen, and it could well lead to injury. Never run on a cold engine. That's what Eddbud said. I think it's good to get the muscles and the mind warmed up like a nice bowl of Heinz tomato soup. Do check out a link up here somewhere for some of my warm-up routines. Mainly range of motion stuff, lots of dynamic stretching. You're going to avoid injury this way, and the mind will be focused, sharpened like beasts' claws, ready to pounce on the unexpected foot. Clothing. Have you thought about that? For your runs, it doesn't need to be mega wallet busting. Having a small running clothing rotation will do the trick. Always check the forecast before you're going to go out. Get some app or something on your phone. That really does help me an awful lot. Check the temperature, maybe the chance of rain, and also the wind strength. There's no point going out there, guys, if there's a gale blowing, trying to do some sort of pace work, some intervals or something. It's just not going to happen for you. Be realistic about it. Either way, the last thing that you want to do is head out with too much or too little on your body. It's just going to make the run uncomfortable and you're not going to enjoy it. It's all about amplifying the enjoyment, cranking it up to 11. Rain's going to soak into normal clothing, guys, so do look for something that will at least wick some of the sweat off you and also protect you a little bit, especially if the temperatures are starting to drop, which they are now here in the UK. You want to try and keep some of that very cold moisture off your body because it's going to lower your core temperature and you're going to end up in some sticky situations. I think a good rule of thumb here, again, I've said it again, it's the phrase of the day, is to wear some stuff where you feel a tad cool for the first mile or so. After that, I think you'll probably be about spot on. I think if you're already warm after the first mile, then you've over-egged the pudding. I gotta be honest, guys, I relish the wet and windy weather. Hopefully I can get back out there in the next couple of weeks. Don't forget though, viewers, I'm a special brand of running weirdo. It's time to talk about GPS watches. One great way to enhance your running experience is to start logging some of your miles somewhere. Now, it could be you just buy yourself a notebook and you write in how many miles you've done. Or you could use some GPS watch to record all of your activities. I'll warn you now though, guys, it's a little bit like Pokemon Go, you know, once you've started recording them, there's no stopping until you've collected them all. You don't have to spend copious amounts of cash here, guys. There's some really expensive watches out there, and it gets to a certain point and the features probably aren't going to benefit most people. It's quite easy to find some cheaper options that will log your times, your paces, your distances. You might even have something already you can do that with. Perhaps on your mobile phone you can do that. Most of the time it's going to be perfect. You might run into a few GPS issues, perhaps if you're running around buildings or with routes that have lots of tree cover. I think the Garmin Forerunner 55 and the Polar M200 are probably the cheapest that you can get. They've got some reasonable features. Most of the lower-end smartwatches now come with some sort of heart rate monitor on the wrist. That can help you ascertain the amount of effort that you're putting into certain runs. That could be really important to ensure you're running in the right pace zones with the right type of level of effort. You don't want to be running all out all the time. That's not going to do you any good. I've got to be honest, I prefer not to take my phone out when I'm running. I don't really like running around with a really expensive smartphone strapped to my arm. And if I'd done that when I got injured, then I wouldn't have had a phone either. It probably would have destroyed it. But I think it's actually quite good to have the phone with you most of the time, in case you run into some sort of emergency. And take that from a guy who had that situation happen to him 2 weeks ago. Last tip for today, guys, is get yourself some decent socks. You can pick up some good running socks these days for around about the £10 mark, and believe me guys, they will enhance the enjoyment of running so much, it is unreal. They'll make the miles more manageable and the kilometres less of a killer. Running socks, I found, tend to help prevent rubbing and alleviate the runner's bane, the blisters. You don't want the blisters. No blisters. We can deal with all sorts of other stuff, you know, broken arms, some sort of toothache, upset stomachs, all of that stuff, but no blisters. I've got hundreds of pairs of socks, guys. Hundreds of pairs, but I always come back to one or two. If they're dry, I will go for them straight away. The ones from Belega seem to last forever. They never ever wear out. And I really enjoy my stance socks as well. Again, they wash really well and just never wear out. Always really comfortable to put on foot. If you haven't worn them for a while and then you slip them onto your foot, it's like meeting up with an old friend in a quaint village pub over a couple of pints of Guinness on a frosty November evening. Pick yourself up some good running socks. You won't regret it, guys. So that's my top tips. I think if I've missed anything out, there's enough quality runners out there to let me know. Post your comments down below, guys, with your tips for people that are getting back into running, that are new to running, or simply just enjoy running. I think I possibly enjoy running a little bit too much. I've been dreaming about running recently, where I can't run, and I'm injured. I had a dream I was racing a half marathon the other day, and the clock was, you know, counting down to that 1:30, and I was close. I could see the finish line, and I was almost there. And then I woke up, and I had some shreddies. Musical interlude time. To keep the spirits up in the Basinski camp, we've been having some post-dinner discos. So this normally means Daisy, Mrs. Eddbud and Fergus and I, we dance around the kitchen like lunatics. It's great fun, good for the mind, body and the soul. So chief tracks here, always Twist and Shout by the Beatles. I love Lennon's really raw vocal performance here, and those harmonies are just spot on. I really like the story of this one, that they'd been recording like all day or something, and his voice was just shot. It sounds really gravelly, but it sounds so good because of it. Gives it that rock and roll edge that slowly kind of got smoothed over and eroded over time. Another great one's Chubby Checker, The Twist. Do you remember when things were really humming? I mean, what brilliant lyrics. There's loads of energy in that track. I really challenge anybody to not want to dance around the kitchen listening to that one. One we enjoyed today was the Monster Mash. Fergus was really getting into that one. I was kind of going around like a zombie, doing my best sort of zombie impressions, and he thought they were quite humorous and funny. He's a happy lad, and so am I for doing my after dinner discos. You know, it makes sense, especially at half term. Thanks for watching through to the very end of today's video, guys. It's always appreciated. Look, no sling. Just for a little bit anyway. Now my arm kind of feels like my own again. It's amazing. It's so cool having two hands. If you haven't done so already, guys, hit that subscribe button, but also click the bell below for notifications when we launch those new videos for you. And it really helps the channel out if you give this video a thumbs up like, but also share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you